In the beginning, the voiceover tells us about a young beautiful prince. He had everything he could wish for, but he was arrogant and loved luxury more than anything else. Suddenly an intruder appeared on the doorstep of his castle, seeking refuge from the terrible storm. She offered the prince a rose in exchange for shelter, but he only laughed and chased the ragamuffin away. The beggar woman warned that appearances can be deceiving, for true beauty is hidden in the soul. Suddenly the beautiful enchantress Agatha appeared in place of the ugly old woman. As punishment for his arrogance, she turned the prince into an ugly monster and cast a spell over the castle and its inhabitants. The rose which the prince rejected conceals a major enchantment. If a girl falls in love with him before the last petal falls, the enchantment will be broken. If this does not happen, the prince will remain a beast forever. All the inhabitants of the kingdom have had their memories erased. The action then moves on to years into the future, to a serene little town. A young beautiful girl named Belle comes out of her house early in the morning. All her neighbors think Belle is strange, but they love her very much for sincerity and kindness. Belle came to the library to return a book. She is the only one in town who enjoys reading, so she is a frequent visitor here. Since there were no new books coming in, the girl took one of what she had read. Since Belle is the first beauty in town, many people want to marry her, including a guy named Gaston, a former soldier. His faithful friend Lefou doesn't think it's a good idea, because a reading wife is woe in the family. But Gaston still intends to win the beautiful girl's heart. All the local ladies suffer from unrequited love for Gaston, but he is not interested in them. However, Belle does not think about marriage at all, she dreams of seeing the big world. When Gaston tried to give Belle flowers, she did not accept them. He thought the girl was just embarrassed and confused. Belle lives with her father Maurice, who invents all kinds of mechanisms day and night. Belle does not remember her mother at all, but the father always says that she was different from everyone else and was the bravest. Soon Maurice was on his way to the fair. The daughter as always asked him to bring her a rose. Left alone, Belle manages all the household chores on her own. The head of the town is unhappy that she is teaching the other girls to read and write. When Gaston heard about the incident in town, he immediately rushed to Belle, but she was not happy for his company. Gaston reminded her that those girls who do not marry and remain fatherless become homeless, like Agatha, the local beggar. Belle, however, was not convinced. She flatly refused to marry Gaston and chased him away. Meanwhile, Maurice was lost in the woods. Suddenly it was snowing, even though it was the middle of June. When a pack of wolves chased him, Maurice began to drive his horse Philip. Almost immediately the horse got loose the wagon, and Maurice found himself surrounded by hungry wolves. Fortunately, Philip returned. Running away from the chase, Maurice and his horse found themselves in the grounds of an abandoned gloomy castle. Since it was the night, Maurice decided to go inside and ask for help from the owner. The door opened before him on its own. The torches were lit, but the owner of the castle was nowhere to be seen. Hearing voices, Maurice became alarmed. He had no idea that the furniture in the castle was alive. More and more strange things are happening around him. Maurice decided to warm himself by the fireplace. Seeing a sumptuous dinner on the table, he began to eat, but at some point the cup of tea began to move across the table on its own and talk to him. Frightened, Maurice rushed to flee. However, at the last moment, he remembered that he had promised to bring his daughter a rose. When Maurice plucked the flower from the bush, it enraged the owner of the castle. A huge monster appeared before Maurice. When Belle saw Philip, she knew at once that something was wrong. Saddling the horse, Belle went in search of her father. Near the castle, summer was ending, it was eternal winter here. Taking a stick in her hand, Belle entered the castle. When the enchanted servants saw her, they had hoped that this girl would break the spell on the prince and on them. The extraneous sound startled Belle. Suddenly she heard her father's voice, and taking the candelabra, ran upstairs. Maurice found himself locked behind bars. He told the daughter to run, saying that the castle is cursed. The owner of the castle appeared, declaring that anyone who picked a rose from his garden would remain imprisoned for the rest of his life. Belle wanted to take the punishment, for it was she who had asked her father to bring her a flower. When Belle realized that a terrible monster was before her, she was frightened, but she dared to ask permission to say goodbye to her father. Beast allowed her to do this. Belle hugged her father and pushed him out of the cell, remaining locked up in his place. Beast did not care who remained behind bars. Despite resistance, he drew Maurice out of the castle. Suddenly the bars opened. When Belle saw the living candelabra in front of her, she was frightened. The strange creature said his name was Lumiere, and he was the head waiter. The clock was also alive. This is the butler, his name is Cogsworth. The enchanted servants told her that she could walk anywhere in the castle except in the west wing. They escorted Belle to her private quarters, which turned out to be luxurious. The furniture did the cleaning by itself. Even the closet turned out to speak. All the servants were very happy to see Belle in the castle. Madame de Garderobe had picked out a bright outfit for their guest, but Belle had no intention of walking around in such a ridiculous dress. She wanted to escape through the window, but the tower was too high. Meanwhile, Gaston felt hurt by Belle's refusal. Letvaux reminded his friend that he is the most eligible bachelor in the neighborhood. All men want to be like him, and all women dream of marrying him. Gaston was born to be a winner. Suddenly frightened, Maurice burst into the tavern, claiming that his daughter was being held captive by a huge evil monster. All the customers laughed, thinking that the old man had gone mad. Gaston was the only one who volunteered to help him and asked to be taken to the monster's castle. Chip was very excited about the girl's appearance at the castle, as was his mother, Mrs. Potts. Beast was furious when he saw that the table was set for two. The owner of the castle did not order that the prisoner be given separate quarters, but the servant said that this girl might be the only chance to break the curse. Beast made an attempt to speak to the girl and rudely ordered her to dine with him. The servants advised him to behave more gallantly, otherwise nothing would work. None of them suspected that the girl was preparing an escape. Belle flatly refused to dine with the Beast, and the owner of the castle declared that if she would not dine with him, she would have no food at all. Frustrated, Beast came to the west wing, where the rose was wilting under a glass cover. The servants are worried, for if the curse is not lifted, they will finally be turned into objects. Belle is visited by Mrs. Potts and her son Chip. She advised her to give up the idea of escaping and have dinner, despite the owner's prohibition. Cogsworth does not believe in success and believes that the girl will never love Beast. But Lumiere is more optimistic. Maestro Cadenza was about to play his best composition. When Belle came, a miracle happened before her eyes. All the kitchen appliances and furniture in the room were spinning in a dance. The finest dishes were set on the table. The enchanted servants never lost hope that soon they would be human again. For years they had been gathering dust in the castle, waiting for a girl who could break the curse to appear. After dinner, Mrs. Potts said that Beast is not as horrible as he may seem. Beneath the mask of the monster hides the unhappy, vulnerable soul. Left alone, Belle, contrary to the servants' warnings, went to the west wing and saw a portrait of the young prince with claw marks on the canvas. Belle also saw the rose under the glass hood. Seeing the uninvited guest, Beast became furious and chased her away. Belle intended to flee the castle. The servants tried to stop her, but in vain. Belle saddled the horse and was in the dark woods, immediately chased by wolves. Falling off the horse, Belle tried to fight off the predators, but she was too frail and weak. Suddenly Beast came to her rescue and engaged in a dangerous battle with the wolves. Beast chased the predators away, but was deeply wounded. Belle's conscience would not let her escape. She put wounded Beast on her horse to take him back to the castle. Meanwhile, Maurice was showing Gaston and Letvaux the way, but the enchanted castle, the snowy forest, seemed to never exist. Gaston became angry, thinking that the old man had simply lost his mind. When Maurice told the guy that he will never get Belle, Gaston struck him and left tied up in the woods. Belle cared for Beast by treating his wounds. When the master fell asleep, the servants told the girl that Beast's mother had passed away when he was young, and that the cruel father had raised him into his likeness. Belle is surprised that in spite of everything, the enchanted inhabitants of the castle are kind to Beast and remain loyal to him to the very end. They tell her about the curse. Belle wants to help them, but the servants are silent about how exactly the curse can be broken. Agatha freed Maurice and helped him gain strength. Belle continued to take care of Beast. She was very surprised when she realized that he is intelligent and well-read. Beast said he had been given a good education. He decided to show the girl his huge library. Belle was speechless because she had never seen so many books. She was over the moon and agreed to have dinner with Beast. He had already lost the habit of using cutlery and ate without a spoon. In the afternoon they went for a walk and admired the winter scenery, Belle reading aloud a book about love. The girl realized that Beast really wasn't as bad as she first thought. Beast was also surprised because before all people were afraid of him and considered him a disgusting monster, not seeing him as human. Gradually, the Beauty and Beast realized that they had feelings for each other. The servants are sure that Belle is the one who will break the spell. One day Belle noticed that Beast was reading a book about love. She thanked him for saving her back then in the woods. Belle also confessed that all neighbors think she is strange and she dreams of seeing the world. Upon hearing this, Beast showed the girl a special book that can transport to any corner of the world. Belle imagined the apartment in Paris where she was born, and they were transported right there. This city is dear to her, for it reminds her of the mother. When Beast found a mask of the plague doctor, Belle realized that her mother had died of the plague. The father was forced to leave to protect their newborn daughter. LeFou feels guilty that they left Maurice in the woods. Suddenly they see him in the tavern, alive and unharmed. Maurice tries to prove to the people that Gaston is the villain, but the guy denies everything. LeFou had to confirm his friend's words. Gaston convinced everyone that Maurice is insane and a danger to society. In the meantime, Beast was worried about the upcoming ball. There were only 4 petals left on the rose, time is short. The servants undertook to bring the master to his proper appearance. In her beautiful yellow dress, Belle was incomparable. When Beast saw her, he could not look away. It was the ball for two, full of the magic of love. They twirled in a dance, and then Belle confessed that she could not be happy in captivity. She misses her father very much. Beast showed the girl a magic mirror, in which Belle saw her father being dragged off to the madhouse. Beast was ready to let Belle go, because it was the only way she could save her native person. He gave the magic mirror to the girl, in case she remembered him. Along with Belle, the last hope of breaking the spell disappeared from the castle. Beast let the girl go because he loves her. Maurice was loaded into the carriage. Gaston was willing to help him in exchange for Belle, but he refused. Suddenly Belle came running and asked to let her father out, for he is not insane. She confirmed that she had been in the enchanted castle, and showed Beast in the mirror as proof. Gaston began to urge the people to go and punish the terrible monster. Belle tried to convince everyone that Beast was not dangerous, then they threw her in the carriage to her father. LeFou does not like this, but he is afraid of his friend, so he stays with him. The people armed themselves with torches, pitchforks, and spears, and saddling their horses under the leadership of Gaston, set out to hunt. The mirror showed the guy the castle. At one point the enchanted servants heard angry men approaching the castle. Belle was trying to figure out how to get out, for she must warn Beast. Since the father is good at mechanics, he was able to pick the lock. Beast was not going to escape from the castle, for now he had lost the meaning of life. The bewitched servants intended to defend their castle. When Maestro Cadenza fell on LeFou, Gaston did not come to his friend's aid. Belle rushed to her lover's aid. Suddenly Mrs. Potts saw her husband, who like the rest of the kingdom had his memory erased. She fell, but was caught by LeFou. Gaston's betrayal caused him to change his views. The people fled the castle in fear, but Gaston had no intention of retreating. Beast offered no resistance. Gaston guessed that Belle was in love with Beast, and he fired a shot. Suddenly Belle came, horrified to see what had happened. The rose had almost wilted, and the castle was crumbling. Wounded Beast rushed to her beloved and entered into a fight with Gaston. Beast spared the guy and let him go, but Gaston used meanness and shot him in the back. However, the castle continued to crumble, and Gaston fell down. Belle begged the beloved not to leave her. The last petal fell from the rose. The doomed servants began to say goodbye to each other, becoming inanimate objects. The enchantress Agatha entered the castle. At that moment, Belle told Beast that she loved him and kissed him. Suddenly the castle was engulfed in magic. Beast turned into a beautiful prince, and he and Belle kissed. The castle was becoming as it was, and all the servants were human again. All the inhabitants of the kingdom regained their memories. Mr. Potts finally found his son and wife. From then on, the kingdom lived happily ever after. A ball was held in honor of Prince Adam and his bride Belle.